Hi, my name is Claddy and today is the holiday editions of Search for the Novelty. It's been a while since I made a video in this series. This is a series on my channel when I look through all the new makeup releases and trying to find what is similar in my collections. And because this is a holiday limited edition, no, it's just a holiday special editions for this year, I want to discuss just one singular trend that I see in eyeshadow palette releases this year. I call it a garden fairy makeup aesthetic. So I noticed that in the year of 2025, every time a brand, both mainstream brand and indie brand, when they release an eyeshadow palette, they casually or intentionally, I don't know what is the vision board or the mood board that they use every time they make a release, but they intentionally or casually put in a green shade, and more noticeably when it's a neutral palette and then there are a few green shades. It could be an olive shade, it could be a grungy green, it could be a khaki, it could be a greenish brown, or it could be like a quite neutrally sparkly brown shade with a flirt of green. And I was like, is green the color of 2025? Although we know that the Pantone color of 2025 is mocha mousse. I make a video about that, like mocha mousse color. So it's not like, oh, we have this established understanding that this is the year when we want to make a lot of green eyeshadows. But I'm going to show you some examples of some of the palettes that I see this year, and it's more often than not they will have some sort of green shade in their color palette. I want to make a disclaimer also that when it comes to mainstream brands, it's more obvious the way that they did it, because normally they would just have a neutral eyeshadow palette with a green shade. But with indie brands, because the color selection is always so variable, and I think they have a lot of intentions and creativity during the process of picking that color selections, it feels like those green shades, they are more cohesive rather than just an addition to a well-made palette. You know what I mean? So I think it's forgiving for indie brands to have more green inspired eyeshadow palettes than mainstream brands, because, well, they already make colorful eyeshadows, and when you play with colorful eyeshadows, like everything is supposed to be more vibrant, it's supposed to be more cohesive in the context that there's a lot of going on. So I think there's a lot of intention in the way that they pick out their green color story. I just want to give kind of a disclaimer, an opinion in mind that yeah, it's unusual that we see a lot of green eyeshadows, but with indie brands, I think there's more leeway to the way that they do it. So let's start with the first palette that I saw this year that was like, well, that's a green eyeshadow palette. Is it though? Makeup by Mario, the holiday palette this year. The full name of the palette is Ethereal Eyeshadow Palette Nature. Well, it's such a spot-on example of my garden fairy aesthetic. Everything is very earthy, grungy, neutral with a pop of green. That's exactly what this palette is. It has a bunch of pinky brown neutral shades very light to medium in terms of color value. And then there is a cool tone sparkly gray eyeshadow on top of that green. If you cover that two shimmers, this is a full-on brown rosy neutral palette. There's nothing special about it, but then you got that green eyeshadow and it changed everything, and now you can call it nature. That's a stretch. Okay, another mainstream brand, Lancome, their Adventurous holiday palette. So the palette is okay. You have a pink blush, you have a pink shimmer, you have a gold shimmer, you have a matte brown, and then you have a, yeah, I would say a golden green eyeshadow. It's not entirely green, it's more of a khaki neutral green, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I haven't seen the palette in real life, but that shade to me in the bottom left corner looks very green, and I think this is the way that mainstream brands tend to do. Like, if they want to make an eyeshadow palette interesting, they keep their usual pink, brown, neutral strategy and then just put in a pop of color, either a blue or a yellow or a green in this case, or a purple, which is smart. Like, in my opinion, it appeals more audience. Like, people who only wear neutral now can use a palette with a pop of color, and people who love colors can venture out into this like mainstream luxury options at Sephora or at the department stores. So I think it's versatile, but is it really worth it? Another palette. This palette is really beautiful. It's from an indie brand, from Singe Beauty. It's the Paisley Hoot palette. So it's a neutral palette inspired by nature. So I like to call it Garden Fairy because, yeah, everything is surrounding that like earthy, nature-friendly flowers, trees, grass, muddy, swampy kind of vibe, and in a good way. I think that's cute. I don't know why, but like, I'm interested in making this video is because I find green quite interesting and wearable this year, especially if you make it the way that you did with this palette. It's grungy green, it's not neon, it's not vibrant, it's not, yeah, it's not just straight up lime or tree green. It has a bit of neutrality in it. It's more nuanced, and you can either make it very colorful or you can keep it in the neutral path that I normally stick on. So I think this is a good trend. Like, I hope that I started off this video positively enough that you know that I like that pop of green, but I just don't want brands like Makeup by Mario got the name for creating a neutral palette and call it, oh, it's colorful now because it had one green in it. But this palette is very cohesive. You have a selections of sage green. I don't really like that grayish green tone, but I think it pairs very, very well with the rest of the palette. So yeah, it's a beautiful palette nonetheless. And then I think it was released recently. This is the Ron palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics in collaboration with May Peng. I think that's her name. It's a palette that's inspired by mold. It's quite a chaotic color story. It's quite hard to like navigate through the selections and narrow down what is the main theme of the palette, but I think because it's mold inspired, you can see a lot of vibrant shades, a lot of neutral brownie shades, and some pop of greens. I think this is a interestingly chaotic palette. I'm not sure if it's a palette for me, and I'm not sure if I can utilize most of the shades in the palette, but like, you know what I mean. This is what is popular right now in both mainstream and indie community when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. You see a neutral palette with colorful shades popping into it. The next palette, I saved it on Instagram. Now that I look at it, I don't think it's new this year. This is the Flutter palette by Ensley. It's Flutter, based on the name. It's based on some of the shade names: Orchid Orange, Pixie Petal, Serenity, Dewdrop. It's definitely a garden fairy inspired palette, and you see like some of the neutral shades, some of the browns with a pop of pink. I think in the grand scheme of things, pink, purple, and green and neutral, they go very well in that kind of theme. Like, you know, like that pixie ethereal vibe. I think pink, purple, iridescent shade together with the green, I think it fits very well to what I had in mind when I say garden fairy. And I think it's, wow, I think this palette is cool. It just happens that it was not released this year. But this palette coming next, I think it was released this year. It is a new palette. Gourmande Cosmetics, the Nevermore eyeshadow palette. Now we are into more of a vampy, smoky, spooky versions of that garden fairy. You know, like in some twisted versions, garden fairy could turn into like a dark, evil spirit. Hopefully I got it right. Like, maybe it's not true, but this is to me like a Halloween, darker, spookier versions of the garden fairy aesthetic. You still have some of the neutrally browns, you have the purple, but now the green turns quite deep and grungy and vampy. Yeah, and they're all very sparkly and flippy. Wow, this palette is really, really beautiful. Another one is from Give Me Glow Cosmetics. This is the Down to Earth palette. Is it? Yes, Down to Earth palette. This is exactly what I've been saying. The whole concept is condensed into an eyeshadow palette. You have a bunch of cool tone neutrals with, yeah, some matte greens, like some neutral shimmers with a flip of green in it. This palette is just like exactly what I need to make my point clearer. Yeah, this is, I think it's the vibe of this year, and it might be just me noticing the outliers of the eyeshadow palette trend. I don't say that my opinion is correct. Like, when I say I think this is the year that green makeup is over the hype, and then it's true. Like, I don't think so, but I feel like because it's the year that I'm not so aware of what's going on in the makeup world, well, then it's valid for me to say that, oh, this happens more often than it would be if I have more info about the makeup releases. But yeah, these are just a few examples, but you can see like there are like 5-7 eyeshadow palette like that this year already. Well, then it feels like, yeah, there's a big audience for this kind of eyeshadow palette, and I think I gag a little bit when I see this palette from Give Me Glow, because I think it's so beautiful. I think if you look at them in like a quadrant system, it has how many shades? 24 shades. But then if you put everything together in a quad, it's so cohesive. And it works because green and brown, they work well together. I think that's the reason why we have seen a lot of palettes, and we will see more palettes like that next year potentially. The final palette I have on the list is from Colourpop, is the Shrek palette from the Shrek collections. What's it called? Beware Ogre eyeshadow palette. Wow, this is, yeah, it's funny. It's Shrek, and I said it's very garden theme, but yeah, you see that, you see the vibe. Like, it's fantastical, it's mysterious, it's very flowy, nothing serious, but you see, like, that's the world that I imagine the eyeshadow palette are inspired by. Yeah, it has some neutral shades, some browns, and then a bunch of greens. Some of the greens are toned down to be quite grungy. There are 3 like vibrant neon shades because it's Shrek, but he lives in the swamp, so I think this palette is quite representative of what's going on in the movie and for whatever I have described about that aesthetic. Overall, I think it's just cool. It's cool for me to notice that, and it's cool for me to think about. Yeah, now I'm interested in wearing some green eyeshadow this year. And I think I'm more familiar with green eyeshadows than ever before, because I find some wearable neutral options to pair the green with, or like I have found some special unique shades in my collection that I have never seen before with a hint of green in it. And now I feel like, yeah, green is not as unwearable as I thought it would be. And as in my normal search for the novelty video, I'm gonna create a look that is inspired by the new makeup that I have shown you. I have a few contestants for the Garden Fairy aesthetic eyeshadow palette. I got this Nouveau eyeshadow palette from ABH this year. It's a green eyeshadow palette with a bunch of neutrals with some pink and purple in it. So yeah, very, very appropriate for what we are gonna create today. This palette I got this year as well, and I have been really enjoying using it. This is Trailblazer from Wonder Beauty. It's a rosy pink neutral palette with a puff green, and this is the matte shade that I used the most this year. It's a cool tone brown with a hint of green in it, and it's not that obvious on the pen, but when you blend it out on the crease, it has this khaki undertone that's so beautiful. And I do have 2 more older eyeshadow palettes. This is Nomad Cosmetics, Berlin Underground. They already reformulated this palette. This is just an old version of it. But look at how grungy it is. It's so yummy in the way that it's so moody. It has a lime iridescent green, and then you have a gradient of like darker greens. You have a pop of bronzy shade, and you have some gold yellow shades in this palette as well. If this is not Garden Fairy, I'm not sure what it is. It's like a whole garden in the palette. And don't get me started on the Australis Hazy Daze. The packaging, and I think the theme of this palette is garden inspired. You have these like very bright yellow shades, and you have like a neutral quad, and then you have these flaky, very sparkly shimmers that has a flip of green in them. So I think whatever palette that I picked today among the 4, I could easily create a neutral look with a pop of green. It's a matter of like, which one do you want to use right now? I can definitely use some of them together, but it's my nature to create just a simple look today because not just me. At the moment I don't want to do so complicated of a look, so I think I have not used this palette quite a lot, but you can tell some of the shades in here, like you have two neutrally matte shades. Yeah, so they are like a kind of a peachy, creamy, browny shade, and then a like a muted terracotta shade, and then you have this cool tone green, like a sagey green shade. Yeah, ooh, and then this like green bronze shade looks so good. Oof, now I am indecisive, so maybe I should use the two newer palettes today. I will start with this brown because this is my favorite brownie shade at the moment. I'll start using it on my crease, just a little bit of it, and then I will go in with, yeah, maybe that green bronzy shimmer from the ABH palette. I feel like this year, because oof, that's so pigmented, man. Wow, that's a lot of pigment. I was about to say that this year, because I do more neutral looks, I feel like I take more notice on the undertones of the neutral shades that I use. For example, I did notice the green undertone in this brown shade, which is really cool. Normally I would just think about it as a brown eyeshadow. Like I would think about it as light brown or medium brown or darker brown. But this year, because I feel like I don't want to go anything too far from a brown shade, so I like to be a bit more experimental with what shade of brown that I want to wear. So instead of going to one palette for one brow, I look at other palettes that give me the same brow with the same tonal value, and by laying them together, comparing them, I can say, this brown is a bit more rosy, the other brown is a bit more yellowy, more mustardy, that one is like really orangey warm tone, and this one in particularly is like it has a khaki base in it, which is a cool thing that I learned this year, against the fact that I don't wear makeup a lot because I started a new job and it feels like I got caught up in work and I don't have time to get ready in the morning. Yeah, but this is definitely a very, very interesting brown shade that I discovered this year. It's not that even interesting to the look, but yeah, to me, it's so unique. It adds something to my skin. Okay, I'm gonna go in to the shade Belle in this Nouveau palette. It's definitely a khaki copper shade. So normally a copper would have a lot of like orange and warm undertone in it, but this one is definitely more yellow and it's leaning into this lime green shade. Like it's not lime green, but you know, like when it's verging to the yellow and green territory, like it looks like it has such a strong lime green undertone in it. So the shade Belle in this palette is really gorgeous. Like I said, it turns out to be a bit more like yellow than green, as I'd expected. So the whole look now is like more neutral and you can barely see any green. It actually reminds me of this shade called SO36 in this Nomad eyeshadow palette. It's the shade right at the bottom here. It's very similar. So to make it a little bit more green and a little bit more fitting to the theme of today's video, I'm gonna add a little bit of this pale iridescent green shade. It's called, I don't even want to try to pronounce it. This is Berlin Underground palette. Yeah, it's a German word that I don't know how to pronounce. I'm gonna use this shade in my inner corner. Yeah, just to bring up the green to the look. Wow, that's I've been doing a lot inner corner highlighting lately, and it adds something, like it's so extra, but when you turn your eyes around, when you're looking at different angles, wow, it's definitely does something different to your eye. I'm so happy that I had added the inner corner brightening shade with that like little pop of extra green. It's brought out the greenness of the shimmer eyeshadow, and it's such a wearable green look, and that's what I want to contemplate in this video. That this year I learned that green can be very wearable. I've been wearing like some of the green shades in this eyeshadow palette, and I feel like it just looks really, really good. I don't have any green eyeshadow palette that I have enjoyed wearing this year. I think there's some khaki mustardy green shade in the Blend Bunny, the Dollhouse eyeshadow palette, that I think is just so yummy, so grungy, so swampy. But I still love them because they are still neutral, which is quite, yeah, a paradox. Like, I love neutral, but now I discovered that green can be neutral, so am I into colorful eyeshadow now? But I really, really enjoyed this look, and I enjoyed the process of creating a look like this as well. Once again, I'm Claudia, and hopefully we'll see each other again